is something I learned over the years. I started out in financial services, and there was a gentleman named Tom Hopkins who was a master trainer. This gentleman has sold over 365 homes in a year. So he had the world record. He's a master sales trainer, and I've taken several of his courses or listened to it. And what he began to talk about was the ability for you to overcome objections. Why is this important? Because you are going to pique people's interest. You're going to use the script, hey, if it was possible if you earn, knowing what you know about Priceline, would you invest it? And they're going to say yes. And you're going to say, get on this call. And after the call, now you should be doing 3 ways. But I still want to teach you the process of overcoming objections. I don't want you to I want you to do 3 ways. But I want you to understand the process so you can see it and understand it. Even when you're on the 3-way phone call, you can now say, oh, that's a technique. Oh, that's a skill that they've developed. They heard somebody else do it, so they developed it. So I'm just going to, in this training, short, go over overcoming objections. Now, having said that, Alfred, why this is so exciting, you being in mortgages, you understand this. A lot of times people will give you reasons or objections, and you don't recognize what they are. They'll give you reasons why they can't do it. One is time. Another reason that people give you, Alice, is family. I want to spend more time with my family. Aries, you're going to have people who say, I don't have the money. That's a common objection. Dawn, you're going to have people to say, I'm not a salesperson. I'm just not a salesperson. You're going to have people, that's Denise, that's going to tell you, I need something steady and consistent. I need a job, so they want security or the benefits. And so those are the reasons people give you. And if you're not equipped, you'll take that as a reason, or I call it a smoke screen. And what happens is somebody's always being closed. What I've discovered is either you're closing them or they're closing you. Now, having said that, those same reasons that they gave you are the same reasons why they should get involved with vacation. And the reason why, Erica, is because if they work the business and do it the right way, they'll have more time to spend with their family. They can do it part-time. The business is up 24/7. And so, time is the thing that we're trying to give them back. Family, this is a great business because it allows you to travel and spend time together. When you think about it, a good friend of mine, Eric McGee out of Milwaukee, I always love this story. He asked his son, Jabari, what did he get him for Christmas a couple years ago? And Jabari said, Dad, I don't remember. And Eric said, son, I don't remember either. He said, but listen, tell me about our last family vacation. And he said, Jabari lit up and could tell him every detail. Guys, I challenge you to do the same thing with your own children, because that's going to become a reason why you're going to share why you're doing the business. Ask your children about your last vacation. You're going to realize that they might not remember all the things you get them, but the time that you spent with them, priceless. They're going to remember those trips, and you still remember the trips when you grew up. That's why people need to do the business. Money. Guys, understand, again, the average regional diamond makes between $6,000 to $10,000 a month, residually. I'm not a salesperson. Well, we show people, if you talk to one of my good friends, Dawn Ogden, and she tells you how she was able to go over to Sandals on a fam trip for $249 or whatever it was, $249. And because of that fam trip, she became familiar with the property, so she sells sandals. Well, it yielded her over $5,000 in commission in bookings. But guess what? The other thing was she earned her IATAN. See, now what in the sale was a tale. She was showing somebody how they could experience their passions and enjoy their dreams. So, again, people say, it's sales. I'm not a salesperson. Well, I beg to differ. But, the reality is you have to know how to overcome that. Another thing, what we got to understand, Constance, is this. The $2,000 a month that comes in and being in control of your business. Now, there's a difference I need y'all to understand between questions and objections. This won't be a long training, but I need you to understand this. Because, Greg, what happens is this. Most people don't know the difference. And questions are natural. Objections are reasons why they can't pursue the opportunity. So they're objecting. I don't have this. I can't do this. That's an objection. A question is, well, can you tell me more about this? So they need clarification. And you have to understand the difference, because you can take a natural question. You get so, I can't answer. And it's a question. And you have to know how to, guess what? Answer the question without trying to give this elaborate explanation. But there's a difference between a question and an objection. Now, answer all questions, but only handle 2 to 3 objections. What do I mean? After 2 to 3 objections, you got to ask yourself really this question. Am I talking to the right person? So because really, you're just trying to figure a way that you can't do it. And so you're trying to tell me politely you don't want to do the business. And it's okay when they start, well, those are objections. And I'm going to teach you how to overcome objections easily. But what I want you to understand is when people have questions, that's natural. Don't feel like you can't answer their questions. Now, am I going against doing a three-way? No, I'm telling you I want you to do three ways. I'm telling you when people have these questions, you get them immediately on the phone and you listen to somebody else answer them. I don't care if you say, well, I know the answer. Guess what? That's a great question. You know what? I got the perfect person to answer that question. Why? Do three ways. Do three ways. So again, I'm telling you, do three ways. Again, do three ways. But I want you to understand the techniques that's going on so that you can turn around and you can see it and understand what's going on. So that, again, there's a difference between questions and objections. So Heidi, here's what happens. Objections, if you properly handle their objection, it may be the difference whether they get involved. You know, sometimes it's time. But see, when you can answer that or help them walk them through, get them to a point where they understand, it can move them forward. You can remove the fear. And so this is an area that we have to get better at, guys. Again, most people, because they hadn't developed this skill, they have people, even though they know more about the business, you have people closing you. I can't do that. And so you have to hear them out, but you got to be able to overcome their objection. So now, we talked about this real quick. This is just real quick information. Ms. Johnson, what I want you to understand, an objection is a reason why a person can't, that prevents your client from going forward. And so, again, or proceeding, an objection is a statement, went too far. An objection is a statement presented in opposition. It's the reason why they express oppositions to challenge. That's what an objection is. So that's just the definition. Now, let's go forward. There are three reasons people will primarily give you give objections. And this is what I need you to understand. The first reason a lot of people give you, they make an objection, is because they don't completely understand the information. And this is key. A lot of times we're talking and we think people get it. We just say, oh, yeah, you got a website, and we're talking, but they don't understand. And so they need clarification. And that may be one of the reasons where they're requesting more information. See, Jay said it's not that everybody's just, you just think they don't get it. Something's wrong with them. Sometimes just because you talk doesn't necessarily mean you're communicating. And then if you ever hear me present, I use a lot of stories because I want to make the connection. I want people to understand. So I'll use a lot of analogies. If you ever hear me do a three-way, I'm going to use examples and analogies because I want people to make sure they understand. That's why I do that. So one of the reasons that keep people from going forward is they got questions. They need clarification. So it's a request for more information. The second reason that people tend to give objections is they've been trained or misused. They're not accustomed to saying yes on the spot. Even if it makes sense, they still got to go, I got to think about it. They're still going to say, you know what, everything looks good, man, it sounds great, but they're not used to saying yes on the spot. They've been told, I don't make impulsive decisions. And so guess what? That's an objection. But you got to understand, it's just too good to be true. It's in their mind, I can't say yes. Even though I can't find nothing wrong with it. It's just I got to think about it. I got to pray about it. That's another reason. The third one, and this is a common one, but you got to understand, most people may use objections as an excuse because they're uncomfortable. That's what it's supposed to be. We're telling you no. They don't want to tell you no. They don't want to do it, but they don't want to tell you no. And for those who had a chance to go to the Barcelo, where Mr. Iverson, Spence Iverson, said he showed us some things that people say that there's just a kind way they're really trying to say no. They don't want to do it. And some of the best things, if you learn how to read the signs, guys, you get to take them off the hook and say, hey, this may not be for you. See, guys, everybody can be happy. You don't have to make it drudgery. You just ask the person, I just want you to look. If they like what they see, we can go forward. If they don't, thank them or ask them, who do they know? But I need us to get good at overcoming objections. So, understanding that, here's what I want you to understand. Like I said, it's going to go through real quick. Objections is a skill, Janet. See, Reggie, you was in sales. You understand this. You like, oh, man, that's right up my alley. It's a skill that can be learned with practice and repetition. And this is the part. I ain't talking about practicing with yourself. I'm talking about practicing with clients. But I need you to do three ways. But you need to be paying attention. You need to be taking notes. You need to hear when they have these questions, how did the person answer? You need to go back and review and say, okay, can we talk? After every three-way, if anybody does a three-way with me, they know I'm going to call you, or we're going to talk after it's over, and I'm going to say, what'd you take away from it? Because it's more important to me that you're learning, even more important than they sign up. I want them to sign up, but I want you to get equipped so that when you're on your own, you can do the same thing. So what do I mean? It's a skill. That means it's something that can be learned, and it's learned through repetition. Now, regardless of the situation, you will feel a lot more comfortable. You're going to feel a lot more prepared to present vacation if you're equipped and armed with the appropriate responses. See, guys, the biggest fear most people have is they don't know what to say. Well, I don't know what to say. And so, Joy, what happens is in the absence of them not knowing what to say, they don't say anything. So, Lucretia, here's what we got to understand. We got to get good at overcoming objections. We're going to teach you the typical responses. You're not going to be ingenuous. You're not going to be insincere. You're going to hear them out, but you're going to know the responses. It's going to be like you can't wait for them to say something. You can be like, come on, what you got? Because you're going to be so equipped and trained and developed. It's like, oh, man, I can't wait for you to, what you got? And that's what I want you to be so confident, guys. I'm telling you, yes, you're going to pique the interest. You're going to ask them a question. Oh, if knowing what you know about Expedia, would you invest 10 years? And they're going to say yes. You're going to say, well, hey, listen, you're going to invite them to the call or invite them on one-on-one, and they're going to do it. But what I just said before, they may go forward and say no based on the 3 reasons I just gave you. And you have to know so you can overcome their objections. You don't have to be timid or run away or, now. And what I mean, if you're doing a one-on-one, you may not be able to call and do a 3-way. So, yes, I want you to do 3 ways, but there's going to be some situations that you're going to call some people, and you got to have a skill to overcome their objections. But how you learn that is by doing 3 ways. And I want everybody on this line to do 3 ways. I want you to do 3 ways so you can feel confident and learn, but I also want you to learn the skill because you're going to have to learn it to teach it. So let's move forward. Having said that, studies have shown it's not the fear of talking to other people. It's hearing no. As much as it is our fear of not being able to answer their questions or counter their specific objections that prevent us from approaching people about the business. That's what most people have, Letra. That's what most people fear, not knowing what to say. If I asked you about your current job, and that model, I didn't misspell it, that model is over the actual E. But if I asked you about your current job, like for instance, I know Letra owns a hair salon. She's a world-class stylist, and I could get her up right now. She could talk in front of 100 people about her because she does it. She's been doing it for so long. I take other people based on their profession, and they could turn around and they would talk about it. Studies have shown it's not people don't have a fear of talking to people. Well, why don't you do 3 ways? They are intimidated. They don't know what to say. If a person asks them a question, they don't know what to say. So we have to kind of break this down and really get them to submit and say, hey, do 3 ways, do 3 ways, do 3 ways. To build their confidence. Let's field train. Let's take them out. Let's show them what to do. Because once they get equipped and know what to say, they ain't got to fear talking to people. So what should your attitude be? Let's go over this real quick. Your attitude, Michelle, is this. Number 1, assume that they want to join vacation. Many people on the line, the first challenge they have, Renee, is they're trying to find, do you want to do it? You already sound like you don't want to do this, do you? You got to assume that they're going ahead. It's almost like, hey, you ready to get started? Man, wasn't that amazing? You have to assume that they're going to join. They just don't know it yet. I believe everybody I talk to is going to join. Now, does everybody I talk to join? No. But my assumption is you're going to go forward. Man, when we finish, I can't. You're going to love it. Even when you talk to them about being a part of your launch, I talk to them as if they're going to get started. So an objection is nothing more than a request for more information. Number 3 says, guess what? Expect objections, but don't you create it. Don't you be the one throwing stuff out. Well, did you? No. Understand they may have questions. If you understand the objection is nothing but a request for more information, then you expect it, but don't you be the one to create it. Now, this is one of the things. Tawanda, let's say a person asks a question or has a great question. What you want to do is isolate the final objection. You want to edify them. That's an excellent question. But let me ask you, is there anything other than that that will keep you from going ahead or moving forward? So what I mean is that may be a good question. If I can get this question answered, if I can get this objection answered, they're not going to tell you it's an objection, they're going to say it's a question. But if I can get this answered, so I'm going to say, great. Other than that, is there any other reason that you wouldn't go ahead? Because guess what? I want to get all your questions. So when I ask you this question, you say, well, I got a question about this. I'm going to say, great question. I'm going to answer that. Is there anything other than that why? Because if you can isolate that final objection, then that means that once I answer that, we're going forward. So, again, we said this because it's a skill. Overcoming objections is going to take practice and repetition. And so you should be excited, guys. Like I said, Richard, you should definitely be excited. And so, Sandra, here's what happens. Let's do this. Understand this. Ask them, don't tell them. Now, I'm talking to you about having conversations. When you're talking to people, this is a skill that you got to develop. Ask them, don't tell them. And what the premise is, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you know what that means? You should be listening twice as much as you speak. Now, a doctor, if you went to the doctor's office, and this is going to be a little comical to me, But Nicoya, if you went to the doctor's office, if you went to the doctor's office, and what if the doctor handed you, said, well, he handed you and said, go to the shelf and diagnose or prescribe your own illness. You would look at him like, huh? You came to him. He's the professional. So he's going to ask you questions to find out what's your symptoms. He's going to ask you questions, or she, could be a she. He or she is going to ask you questions to find out, well, what's going on. Why? So based on their knowledge, they can help prescribe to you, based on your symptoms, this is the best method or what we need to do to help alleviate this challenge or pain. Hopefully you get that. See, if you went to a law office, you had a court case, you went to the law office and the doctor said, listen, the lawyer said, hey, go work out your own defense. You'd be like, huh? I'm paying you. You're the professional. But a lawyer can't mount a good defense without gathering testimony, what had happened, eyewitness, getting account of what happened. See, so you can't effectively invite or sponsor a new rep until you find out what they want or need. And what I'm saying is a lot of times we go in too soon for the, hey, you like to travel? Let me tell you about this travel business. And I'm saying you need maybe to develop a little bit more. You need to ask the right questions. You need to be interested more than interesting. What's the difference? Interested means you're interested in them. You're asking them questions. And so as you go along and you ask Shanquille, you ask her, so, tell me about this. And she elaborates, oh, really? How does that work? Or tell me more about that. See, the more information you get, the easier it is to close them in the business. I call it Mirandarize. To Mirandarize somebody. It's like in law, they say everything you say can and will be used against you. Well, I believe the same thing. In sales, what you say is what I'm going to use against you to close you in the business. I'm going to ask you those questions about your goals and dreams. I'm going to ask you what you like best about what you do. I'm going to ask you what would you change or improve about what you do. I'm going to ask you how much more money would you pay yourself per month. And you're going to tell me, and I'm going to say, well, if you had this extra money coming, what would you do with it? And you're going to say, oh, I would love to do this. I'm going to say, tell me more about that. What do you mean by that? See, now when I find out that information, it's easy for me to ask you. So it's easy for me to close you because I got the information. That's why you should be listening. If you do a presentation, you're just doing a whole bunch of talking, it's not a good presentation. You may say, oh, man, I killed it. You sure did. You killed your chance of bringing them on board. You got to be engaging. You got to do the presentation, but you got to find out what their goals and dreams are. You're trying to get them as a business partner, so you got to listen. So we made that point. Now, let's move on to the next one. You are a professional, or you're learning to be a professional. I told you professionals make a lot of money. Professionals launch. But as a professional, I told you amateurs do it till they get it right, but professionals do it till they can't get it wrong. You got to keep doing it in practice until you get it. So it's your obligation as a professional to make the decision for your client. See, I told you this earlier. What if a lawyer told you to outline your own case, or the doctor told you to diagnose your own illness? You'd be like, see, they're the professional. You went to them for their advice. People come to you guys. You're the travel professional. Truly, you're the professional. We got to stop. That's why you're the one who has to be, you got to understand how to overcome objections. But understand, you can't lead a prospect to a decision until you made it. So if I'm talking to you, I determine I want you in the business. I already made a decision I want you in the business. Now I'm going to lead you to that decision. We're going to come to it together. I'm going to make you think you came up with it. But I already decided I want you in the business. Now I'm going to lead you to it. You may say, Shelly, that sounds like manipulation. No, it's not. But it's, as a professional, I'm leading you to come to this point to say, okay, that makes sense. So do people do what you tell them to do? No, they usually do what you ask them to do. That's key. Guys, you're in the profession, so what you want to do, and if you ever listen to Eric Worre or listen to that GoPro, he talks about these skills a little bit, but you want to ask people, you want to lead them, you want to ask questions. Even with your new teammates when they come on, do you want me to hold you, can I hold you accountable? They're not your employees. You can't tell them you got to do this. You ask questions. You want to lead people and ask them questions. Will you be coachable? Do you want me to hold you accountable? So you got to ask questions. So again, as a professional, it's your responsibility, to lead them. You can't help your client make a decision until you made it. And so I want you to understand that. And like I said, we'll open up and ask questions. So this is my fun part. I told you got to get good at asking questions. So Joy, Tawanda, this is the fun. See, if you ask the right questions, you lead them to come up with the right answer. And watch this. If you tell them, they might doubt it. But if they say it, it's true. Guys, if you get none of this stuff, please get this one. If you tell them, they doubt it. But if they say it is true, what do I mean? I may say, Well, Wanda, you need to make more money. Well, hold up. She ain't said that. So I'm all right. So now it could be well, I'm all right. I doubt it. Well, you need to travel. No, I'm telling you that. But if I say, well, are you making all the money you want to make? And she says no. Well, now it's true because she said it. It's my job to lead her to a question, to ask the question, to get her to say, so now it's true. Now because she said it, it's established. Because he said it, it's established. That's what you got to understand. Guys, you're a professional and you control the conversation with questions. Imagine playing a tennis game. And here's what I want you to understand. This is where it becomes fun, guys. When you really get good at it, Alfred, you understand this. See, it's like tennis. When you ask a question, so you may say, hey, knowing what you know about a Priceline, or Expedia, would you had invested 10 years ago? When they say yes, guess what? You control the conversation. They're saying yes. But when they say, tell me more about it, guess what? They just took control. They served it back at you. The challenge is you don't serve it back. You just start answering. So you lost the volley, or you got to get good. You can't be intimidated because a person says, well, can you tell me more about it? You got to be able to say, listen, I want to tell you all about it, but it's 100% visual, some things you need to see. That makes sense, doesn't it? They're going to say, well, yeah. See, I'm controlling the conversation with my questions. I'm not intimidated just because they ask me a question. I clam up, or I get nervous and I say, oh, I can't tell you. Well, what's the name of the company? I can't tell you. Well, a better response would be, the name is Vacation. You've heard of it, haven't you? Well, no, I've never heard of it before. Well, it's one of those things. Really, one of what things? What do you mean? I don't understand. What do you mean by one of those things? Can you explain that for me? See, I'm in control when I ask the question. And see, we get defended. That's a pyramid. Well, just for my clarification, can you tell me what is your definition of a pyramid? I'm back in control. Why? Because you're going to be the one on defense. See, I'm going to control the conversation with my questions. And so many times when the person asks you a question, you just go into explain it. Well, can you get on a conference call? Well, I can't get on a conference call if you can't tell me more about what it is. I totally understand that. But let me ask you this. It's 100% visual. It's going to take about 20 minutes. I don't have the 20 minutes right now. So that's why I'm inviting you on a conference call. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. So with 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock be better. Okay, 9. I'm in control. Y'all saw it on Monday when I was doing the role play. She purposely shared and said, I'm going to be negative. At the end, she did answer just what I wanted her to answer. Because when you understand, when you sound in your tactics, they can't argue with you. You got to get good at asking the right questions. So it says if your tactics are sound, people can't fight you. If I say, are you making all the money you want to make? And they say no. I say, well, do you keep your income options open? If I knew a way that you can make additional income, would you want to know about it? See, if you tell me you want to know about it, now that's true. I ain't got to be worried about, are they interested? You told me you was interested. That's why you got to get good at asking questions. So with questions, you're in absolute control. Now, here's what I want you to understand. This is getting good. I love this part. Acknowledge a fact. Facts are what they tell you. So use what they tell you to lead them to the next level of closing. So that's why you got to ask questions and take time in the beginning and kind of get to know them. Stop rushing Okay, Shutter, help me. Jesus, help me. Listen, I told you, yes, you want to be in a hurry. You want to show value. You want to take it away. Just so nobody confused, that's the formula. Be in a hurry, show value, take it away. So be in a hurry is you tell them up front, I got to run. I don't have a lot of time. That's so that they don't ask you a lot of questions. They don't ask you. But showing the value is you're stating the purpose of why you're calling them. What's in it for them? So you're going to ask them a question. That's when you're going to ask them the question, hey, knowing what you know about Expedia, would you have invested 10 years ago? And when they say yes, you're going to say, well, listen, I got something bigger than Expedia. Hey, listen, I'm having a private conference call. I'm having a special launch call. I want to invite you on. Can you make yourself available or make this a priority to get on the call? And they say yes. Great. I can't promise you this is for you or not. But listen, as my special guest, I got about 20 people who are going to be on the call. I got to ask, what I'm saying is you're asking questions. If they have a question, well, sounds great, but can you tell me more about it? You're still in control. You still got to be a professional at all times. Listen, I want to tell you all about it, but that's why I'm inviting you on the call. That makes sense, doesn't it? Well, it does. See, what happens is you're having a discussion and you just say, okay, this is what they said, say. But you don't know how to respond when they say something that's not on the paper. And that's what frees you up. That's what you don't know what to say afterwards. And so you clam up, you get nervous and, oh my God, no, you got to be a professional. So what it says is acknowledge a fact. Facts are what they tell you. So when you ask a question, you say, well, let me ask you, Are you saving to making all the money you like to? When they say no, you say, well, let me ask you, if there was a way that you could increase your quality income, would you be interested? Guess what they're going to say? Doing what? Well, hey, listen, I'm working on a major project. I'm having an overview, and it's going to cover all the details and facts. It's going to take about 15 minutes. If I could show you how to make additional money and save more money, would that be something you'd be interested in to know more about? I would. So can you make the call? Well, can you tell me a little bit more about it? That's why I'm inviting you on the call. See, we're volleying back and forth. It's okay for them to ask me questions. I just got to always be in control, and I'm going to bring it back with the question. That's what I need you to get good at. And that's what you're going to see the people doing the questions, or when you see the people who are doing the 3-way phone calls, you're going to see they're going to get good at asking them, so what would you like best about what you saw? What would you like best about what you heard? Why? Because they're in control with questions. Right? Now, let's move forward because I told you I won't be long. So here's what I want you to understand. During my presentation, you get minor agreements along the way. When you're talking to people, you get minor agreements. If you ever heard me say, and I say it all the time, it's almost I'm conditioned, and sometimes I hear them like, but I would say, that makes sense, doesn't it? Anybody who's been around me, I promise you've heard me say that. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because I want to get minor agreements along the way. So when I lead to the last final, you've told me it makes sense. I agree. So now when I get to the end, I'm saying, if you collect a lot of yeses, you've already got them conditioned of saying yes, 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 yes. So at the end, they can't say no because you got them conditioned of saying yes, 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 yes. But if you never ask them questions where they can say yes, then at the end, you're wanting them to say yes, but you didn't get them conditioned to saying yes. So I'm telling you skills, but you wanted to get minor agreements along the way. Reggie, I know you jumping out. You're like, oh, my goodness, I remember this from IBM. I'm telling you, these are skills that go along. I don't care what industry you're in. You got to get good at sales and overcoming objections. So you're asking questions to get minor agreements. Man, how would it feel if you could take your children to, if you could be debt free? Wouldn't you just love? Oh, I would. Man, if there was a way that you could, bring your wife home off of her corporate job and she could be full time, would that be something you'd be interested in doing? Absolutely. Man, if I can ask questions, I'm getting minor agreements along the way. So if I could show you a way that you could travel the world and experience your dreams, what would prevent you from taking advantage of that? Nothing. If it was $199, you see, guys, all you're doing is asking questions. You're going to find out our business, you're a professional, you ask questions. That's what your job is, to ask questions. Not be pestering. Like, oh, stop asking me so many questions. When your skills sound, they don't know what you're doing. You can't make them feel like you Connie Chung on 60 Minutes, or you can't drill them with 50 questions. You should still ask the question, but you got to be skillful at what you're doing. I already know the question I'm about to ask you, but I'm going to elaborate. I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to get engaged. I'm going to say, okay, really? Well, tell me more about that. I'm going to get really engaged. So now when I lead to the next question, I knew what the question was before I started, but you didn't know. And now you just like, man, that was good. So now when I ask you what's going to prevent, so anyway, let me move forward because I got to wrap up. Now I'm going to give you these 5 steps, and we're going to wrap up with these 5 steps. Now I'm going to actually go over objections on Friday. I'm going to go over about the common objections. I'm going to show you how we answer them. I mean, we're going live and role play. Right now, I'm just going to give you the formula. So please take notes. It's 5. These are 5 steps to overcome objections. Do you have to use all 5? No. I just want you to understand the concept. First point number one is hear them out. Make sure that you thoroughly understand the area of concern. What it means is listen. We told you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should listen twice as much as you speak. Completely and intently. Don't interrupt them because you think you know the answer. They say, well, and you're so ready to jump in. Listen to them. And so you might be ready to answer the wrong question, or you might create, remember I said expect objections, but don't create them. That's when you just start throwing stuff out there. And they say, I wouldn't even think about that, but yeah, now that you said it, tell me about that. You created the objection. Not to mention it's rude to interrupt somebody. So again, be interested instead of interesting. Stop talking about you. Ask them questions. So number 1, hear them out. This is basic. What's the number 1? Hear them out. All right, what's point number 2? Point number 2 is feed it back to them in the form of a question. So let me give you an example. I might ask Michelle, listen, Michelle, let me ask you, what do you like best about what you do at your job? She said, well, I like, helping people, and I like, I like having, I don't have anybody over me, so I like the kind of, the freedom. So in other words, what I hear you saying is, you like the ability to kind of be free and be your own boss, and guess what she's going to say? Yep. So point number 2 is feed it back to them in the form of a question. So in other words, what you mean by that? Sometimes the best way for you to handle an objection, or a person says, "Was this a pyramid?" Guess what? The best way to handle objections is with a question. Well, just for my clarification, could you tell what is your definition of a pyramid? Well, that's when you got to get people. See, now I'm in control. Instead of me cluttering up and feeling, oh my God, they asked me. No, guess what? It's just a question. And I told you the person that answered the question is in control of the conversation. And I'm telling you, you get good at this. You'll be doing around your house. People like, man, I know where you're going. But when your tactics are sound, people can't argue with you. This allows you to get deeper understanding of their thought process. That's really what you understand, where they're coming from. You don't always have to feel like you're under attack because a person says something. They sometimes just need a little clarification. But you're so ready. Well, your job a pyramid. You ain't a professional. You're a thug. You just responding because you're in defense. You ain't got to get defensive. Get skillful, and you ain't got to be defensive. So in other words, so they say something. Well, I'm just not interested. So just for my clarification. So in other words, what you're telling me is you rather pay retail as opposed to wholesale when you travel. Is that what you're telling me? No. See, now that I asked him a question to clarify, or I fed it back to him in the form of a question. I'm saying, just for my understanding, I just want to make sure I'm getting it correctly. So in other words, what you're telling me is this, so I can get further understanding. So point number 2, the first one is hear them out. Point number 2 is feed it back in the form of a question. Point number 3. So when my computer finishes scrolling, it'll come up. Point number 3, I want to say is the feel, felt, found method, if I'm correct. I am. So this is really good because what it allows you to do is empathize with them. So when they make their statement, you don't have to just get defensive. You say, you know what? I understand exactly how you feel. And in fact, I felt the same way. But what I found was, that's a technique. And skillful people, they do it. See, they make people feel like they empathize with them. So, I'm just not a salesperson. I know exactly how you feel. When I said I would never do a business like this, I was the same person that when my sponsor, he's Don. When the guy who sponsored me, he called me and I just, I'm not interested. I don't have time. I know exactly how you feel. I felt the same way. But what happened was I found when he started talking about I could save my taxes. See, guys, all you're really doing is sharing your story, but you're always in control. You don't have to get intimidated. I understand exactly how you feel. I felt the same way. They're like, for real? But what I found was, so now what happens is you're telling them what was the difference. Why'd you go forward? But when you can empathize with a person, Deborah, you sitting there talking to them and you listen and they saying, well, I just don't have time. You say, I know exactly how you feel. I felt the same way. I'm married, got children. See, you're telling them, not just jumping on them, but guess what? Elaborate. I know how you feel. Empathize with them. I felt the same way. But what I found was this. If I didn't make time, I was going to keep being in the same situation. And I discovered the definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over. And they're going to say, that's true. See, I need to bring them on the other side. Just because they have an objection don't mean that you can't win them over. The objection is you got to get them to think a different way. That's why you got to hear them out so you can understand how they're thinking. So then you can help them make a decision that you made for them. So if there was a way that so they said, well, I just don't have no time. Well, I understand how you feel. I felt the same way. But what I discovered was that was the thing I didn't have was time. Somebody was always controlling my time. And I needed my time back. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. So if there was a way for you to be able to, without taking too much time with the time you had, but it was a way that you could bring in extra income so you could do this. Wouldn't you want to know about it? Wouldn't it almost be irresponsible not to at least look at it? Well, that's true. Well, I just don't do those things. I totally understand how you feel. I felt the same way. I used to say the same thing. But let me ask you a question. If you had to make a little mistake or a big mistake, if you had to make one, which would you rather be? Well, if I had to make one, a small mistake. Well, again, a small mistake would be, listen, you come, you hear the information. It takes, hour to hear the information. And you make a decision for yourself based off the information. I found that intelligent people at least hear the facts first before making a decision. And you're intelligent, right? Yeah. A big mistake would be, listen, this is the very thing that you've been praying, Lord, send me this and this. So I can go on and on. But my point is, guys, what I'm saying is I'm having a discussion with them. I'm still in a hurry. But after I've shown the information and they got some questions that are standing in the way of them going forward, I'm skilled to say, listen, let me help you walk. Let me walk you into the promised land. I'm not so intimidated that you got to get good at overcoming objections. So an example real quick, and I got the fourth one and the fifth one we wrapped up. It says, I understand how you feel. I felt the exact same way. But what I found, the only way I was going to accomplish my goals and express my dream was I had to overcome my fears, and take a chance. And, people say, that's true. We all talk about we want New Year's resolutions, but if I don't do something different, what's going to be different? You got to be able to walk them to the point. So use the feel, felt, found method. Now, point number 4. Answer the objection. And, I was doing this right before we finished. So answer the objection or the area of concern, but then stress the benefit. What that means is, and that's tied together, once you understand how they feel, you felt the same way, but I found stress the benefit. So, Nicoya, you see, because your state-of-the-art website is actually powered by Priceline. Priceline is the #1 provider of online travel in the world. Actually, did over $7 billion. So you can be confident that the price on the website is going to be comparable and competitive. And that's what you want, isn't it? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm stressing the benefit. The benefit that you'll have your own booking engine, the benefit of taxes, the benefit, features and benefits. Features of what you have, benefits of what you're going to enjoy. So stress the benefit. Why they're going to do it. What's going to get. And last but not least, confirm and regain control with the question. You'll notice I always tie down my statements. What a tie down is it's a question at the end of your statement. So again, let's say a person says, well, can you tell me more about it? That's their question. Well, I answer. I said, I want to tell you all about it. But it's going to take about 30 to 45 minutes. I don't have that time right now. So that's why I'm inviting you on the call, because you're going to have one of the top leaders giving all the information. They're going to answer your questions. That makes sense, doesn't it? That means I just confirmed and regained control with the question. So in other words, what's happening? Hold on, I'm going to come back to my screen. So in other words, what happens is this. I say, Trudy, I went past my screen. Hold up, y'all. Okay. So with number 5, it says, so Trudy, since you're going to travel anyway, and the people you know are going to travel, wouldn't you agree it just makes sense to get paid on the travel as well as receive substantial tax breaks that you're going to do anyway? And guess what she says? Well, yeah. So that takes care of that, doesn't it? Well, yeah. So just to summarize everything, guys, what I'm saying is this. You made your list. You graded your list. You ready to now go call the people, and you got the phrases, the 1 or 2 comfort phrases that you feel comfortable with. You don't sound scripted. You internalize them. You don't memorize them. You ready to go. You practice on your children. You practice on other people. So now you're ready to make your list. You're ready to make your calls. So you saying it, and you either separating the interested from the not interested. The people who are interested, you're inviting them to get on whatever exposure. They look at the exposure, they like what they see, but they got a couple questions. There's a difference between questions and objections. Questions are, how do I go forward? I got some questions. Objections are really opposition, but just because they have a little opposition don't mean you can't overcome it. So if you develop your skills, and how do you really learn how to do that? Through 3-way phone calls. So I want you to do a lot of 3-way phone calls, because the person that does the most 3-way phone calls is going to make the most money. But you're going to have a team of people because of 3-way phone calls, and they're going to be utilizing you. So you have to learn these skills regardless. You got to be listening. So when you do the 3-way phone calls, I need you to understand what's taking place. And when your tactics are sound and you're asking questions, you get really good. And guess what? People can't really fight you. And you don't have to be intimidated about talking to people, because you can't wait for them to say, well, is this a pyramid? You're not going to attack them, and you're not going to feel attacked. You're just going to hear them out and say, I understand exactly how you feel. What's funny is I felt the same way. See, guys, when you become skillful at what you do, you ain't got to be intimidated. So you're going to confirm and regain control with the question. Let's wrap up. Don't take rejection personally. This business is all about timing. They're not rejecting you. What they're doing is rejecting the opportunity to change their situation. What I want you to understand, and this has to be your mindset, no simply means not now. A woman dating a man, she says no, it means no. In sales, it means not now. It means I don't have enough information. It means I don't understand. Don't take it personal. Stop taking the no personal like they're attacking you. I love today's IMV. They said business is not emotional. Take the emotions out. Stop being so emotional. Oh, they told me no. So what? So again, look, tell me yes, tell me no. But look, whatever you do, tell me quick. I got to go. And so lastly, I don't even know why I put this in, but poverty and shame in Proverbs 13:18 says this: poverty and shame will come upon him who refuses instruction. Here's my point. Here's why I know I put that in there. Because you can show somebody, but if they just refuse, you can't help somebody that don't want to be helped. So guys, develop the mindset. You're here to bless people. You're here to empower people. You got something that people need. You're going to make a big difference in people's lives. But at the end of the day, you need to become skilled at what you do. I told you earlier the difference between an amateur and a professional is an amateur do it till they get it right. Oh, I got somebody to get on an appointment. But professionals do it, they can't get it wrong. They do the PS3 over and over and over and over. They peak interest, they show the plane, they do 3-way phone calls. They peak interest, they show the plane, 3-way phone call. Peak interest, show the plane, 3-way phone call. And you teach your people to do the same thing. So, guys, having said that, Friday we will actually pick up with questions. And we will actually do some role play, but I'm going to go over the common objections. I will open up and have some people, objections, common ones that you get. We're going to go live, and I'm going to show you how to overcome them. We're just going to go live, and I'm going to put them out there, but I'm going to do more of a live role play. So hold your questions about what we covered until Friday. Because I'm definitely over my time, but what I do want to share is this. I am, again, getting with Sonams, or getting with Jackie, getting with some of the other leaders who are excellent presenters. And we're going to leverage the 9 o'clock call. We're not doing anything separate from what the company's doing. We may have a 1 or 2 webinars. We're going to look at some things, but we're going to put together a schedule, a game plan, because I want the whole team to relaunch. And you're going to be relaunching. So that's why you got the names, and don't be anxious for nothing. But guys, just understand, just do everything, get caught up. Don't be so quick. Or what's the new thing? Master the stuff that I've given you thus far. So, when we make the phone calls, you're calling 20, 30, 40 people a day because you got your list. And and so you can still collapse time frame. So that concludes today's presentation, today's webinar. If you have any questions, you can text them and allow me to pick them up on Friday. I will answer your email. But with that being said, you guys have a fabulous, fantastic, and amazing night. This webinar is officially over.